Hi there everybody, it's UK independent Stampin' Up demonstrator Halsey here from slimandstylish.stampinup.net. Thank you very much for joining me today. Today I'm going to be creating my own one sheet wonder using our A4 cardstock. I love doing one sheet wonders with our 12 by 12 patterned DSP, but do you know that you can make them yourself just using your A4 cardstock and a stamp set? Here we go, let me show you how. I'm going to be using the Cheerful Daisies stamp set today. This is a new stamp set from the new annual catalogue and it's really nice. It's double step stamping, which means that you have an outline and then you also have an infill. So it saves you spending hours with your markers or your blends or your crayons or whatever you're doing. This will just colour it in for you straight away. As you can see, I'm using a lot of stamps for this one. This set has lots of different patterned stamps and flowers and things like that, so it's perfect for this sort of project. I'm just popping all of these onto all my different size blocks. This is going to pretty much use every block that I have in my block caddy, but it's going to be worth it. I'm using an array of different colours. So for the lemony type section, because I'm going to be basing this card more on a yellow sort of scale, I've got Lemon Lolly, which is one of our new colours, Daffodil Delight, and I've got Crushed Curry, and I'm just showing you which stamps I'm going to be using those on. Now, I made a little bit of a mistake when I first started filming this introduction. I got two different colours for these two sections of the stamp set. So I used Cajun Craze and Wild Wheat, pointed them both out to you and told you where I was going to use them. And then at the end wondered why I had a colour left, and it was because I had pointed them to the same parts on the stamp set. I had a daft moment and you'll notice it later. So I'm also using Lost Lagoon and Calypso Coral in the card as well. So I'm basically basing all of this on lemons and browns to get a really sort of coordinated palette. Now, when you do your one sheet wonders, I always think it's best to start off with the bigger style stamps. So what I'm doing here is I'm stamping the outline in Lemon Lolly, and then I'm stamping the infill. But before I stamp the infill, I'm stamping it off on a piece of scrap paper. Now, one thing to learn from me doing this is don't just do it all on the same scrap paper and don't put it on top of your cardstock because it will seep through. The ink gets a bit runny. I'm going to cover that up with flowers, but it was a nice lesson to learn. Exactly the same with this. I've stamped the outline in Daffodil Delight, and then I am stamping off before I stamp the infill, so it's just slightly lighter than the outline so you still can see the outline. Okay, and there's a smaller one. Then I'm in with Crushed Curry for the like half daisy. I'm doing exactly the same with that, where I'm going to be stamping the infill before I stamp it on just to make it a little bit lighter. Now what I'm actually doing with this is you'll see I'm staying towards the center. I'm going to cut this in lots of different shapes, but I want to make sure that I get a flower on each bit and a white space on each bit. So I'm sticking this along the centre and I'm creating some gaps along the edges. I've used Wild Wheat as the infill, and now I'm using my Cajun Craze to actually pop some of the little flowers on there. And then I'm coming in with my Lost Lagoon and popping some leaves on just for a bit of a colour pop because it's all looking a bit lemon, and this is just going to spruce it up a little bit. And then just for a bit of extra, I'm using Crumb Cake, and I'm going to apply this using my blending brush along the background to add some colour to the background of the card. Now, you could have done this with any colour, and I haven't done it as a coordinated piece. I've actually just done it as a little bit of colour. I just wanted to add a little bit of texture on here. Now I am taking a little bit of strip off here. I'm taking off 1/2 centimetre from each side of the cardstock, just so I'm a bit closer to where the pictures are. And then I'm going to chop this to create 6 different cards. Now what I'll do is I'll put the measurements in the description bar below. I'll put the measurements in centimetres and I'll put the measurements in inches for you. But don't forget, if you are using the inches and you are over in America, I'm going to be putting them onto UK size card bases. So If you use my sentiments exactly and you create them in inches, they might be too long for your US card bases, which I think is slightly smaller than ours. So just take that into account as you're doing it. Okay, now this is really up to you when you create your one sheet wonders. You can cut the cardstock wherever the pattern takes you. So my pattern allowed me to do this. If you use a different stamp set or different pattern, you might be able to cut yours differently. But what you want to do is you just want to keep chopping the paper so you have a bit of pattern on each bit. And then you want to take the coordinating cardstocks, this is crushed curry, and you want to cut it 1/2 centimetre wider than the cuts you have made on your paper. Hopefully that makes sense, but say for instance I cut a 6 by 6 piece, you would want to be cutting it at 6.5 centimetres by 6.5 centimetres. So what I'm doing here is measuring the paper I've cut, measuring the background and then sticking it on. Okay, and it's just going to create a nice little frame around the outside. On this one I'm not even measuring it, I'm sticking it and then I'm just cutting it by sight. So it's really up to you which way around you do it, but you want to get a coloured piece of paper on the background of it. The measurements I'm going to give you below are just going to be for the way I cut the A4 cardstock. So you just need to cut the background 1/2 centimetre wider on each bit. Then for your cards, you want a load of card bases, fold, score, burnish those. And you're going to be sticking your panels onto them. So I've actually got 6. I did 5 thinking I'd done 5 cards, but I ended up making 6, so I had to grab another one and stick these on. Now some of these are full size, some of them are going to be half size, and some of them are just going to be a pattern piece. It's really up to you. I mean, these 2 pieces that I've done that are full size, I could have cut them in half again and created myself 2 more cards. It's up to you how many cards you want to get out of this and how much of a pattern you want to use. It's a good, fun experiment and you can create some really lovely effects with it. Stick them onto your cards. And here's my extra one coming in. And this one's a small one. So this just shows you what you can do with a small piece. Okay. Now it doesn't look like much now, but I'm going to be popping some sentiments on and that will just make it pop a little bit more. So for the sentiments, I am going to be using this one here, wishing you the brightest of birthdays. And I'm going to be stamping that onto plain basic white cardstock. And I'm going to need 6 of those for my card, and I'm stamping it in crumb cake so it matches the textured background that I did. And then once you've got your 6, I'm just going to chop these out into a small rectangle. Now I chose a variety of different techniques with this. I did cut them all into a rectangle. Some of them I stuck onto a piece of crushed curry exactly the same way as I had the picture and stuck them onto the card. Others I just stuck directly onto the card and didn't have the frame on the background. Really up to you which way you want and which way you prefer. And it's up to you where you put your sentiment. So these 2 cards were the exact same, but I put one at the side and one at the bottom. And then on these, I didn't add the frame because there was already enough going on in the card that I stuck that on. And then the second one that is exactly the same, I stuck the frame on the background. So it's really up to you how you want to play with these and how you want to set them out. But there are my 6 cards. Now you can come in with some embellishments if you wanted to. You could put some twine on there. You could jazz them up however you like. But realistically, you have got 6 lovely cards there from your own created DSP. Really simple technique to use. Any stamp set will do. This was using the Cheerful Daisies, which I have fell in love with. You could also change it so it's any colour. I could now do this one in a grey scale or a monochrome card. It would work just as well. What do you think? Don't forget, all of the measurements are down below if you want to actually create the exact same template that I have just done. Hope you enjoyed. And here's the finished project. Thank you for joining me. I do hope that you enjoyed the video. Everything I've used today is available from slimandstylish.stampingup.net. If you did enjoy the video, please do drop me a like or leave me a comment. And if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe and come back for more content. I also have an Instagram page that I'm trying to grow at the same time. It's @slimandstylish, and every like or follow helps. Thanks everybody for joining me. I hope you have a lovely rest of the day. Bye.